welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the ever-expanding, always growing, award-winning fan show. Thank you all for joining me on this Wednesday edition of the Fan Show. It is, again, we're dialing them back a little bit here. We've got some specials, though, that you guys are more than welcome to have at. We just did an outdoor special to start off the week, Monday. Bobby Brown of All-Star Bass Fishing and pro angler Jacob Wall was the first special under the Outdoors Division banner, and that was, or Shield, I guess I should say. And that was a lot of fun. We talked about, Bobby got to recap 2018. We talked about what's ahead for 2019. And then Jacob Wall, we got to know a little bit behind the scenes, the life of a professional fisherman. God, man, you think about life and career day, that one wasn't there, was it? It's like police officer, firefighter, doctor, lawyer, banker. I mean, there's a lot of Joe jobs out there. There's a lot of 9 to 5. There's a lot of service, men and women, and your first responders. And oh boy, if you would have had the guy there for professional fishermen, I feel like that line would have been out the door. But I'm sure sportscaster and podcast host probably would have had a reasonable line as well. But man, I envy it because I love fishing. I really do, which was a large part behind the creation of the Outdoors Division. I was happy with 5 divisions, but no, we have 6 of them. So if you're an outdoors fan, if you're a fishing fan, if you're just a fan of the show, go and check it out. It was put up Monday, and it was a great conversation with both guests. So thank you again, Bobby and Jacob. And Jacob, University of Oregon, on their pro fishing team. God, again, life choices, right? Going to school to be a professional fisherman, didn't know it was possible. So go and give that a download and a listen. Speaking of our divisions, we do have 6, as we mentioned, and one of them is pop culture. And pop culture was basically designed so that if we wanted to talk about the latest movies that came out, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Grinch, I recommend you see both of them. I've seen them both lately, and I thought they were both great. But also because we did Comic-Con for the first time. And then for the second time, Lilac City and Lake City. I think I tried to say both of those at the same time. Lilac City Comic-Con and Lake City Comic-Con, created by Nathan O'Brien. And it was such an eye-opener, such a tremendous experience for myself. I'd never been to a con before. I had always wanted to go. I really wanted to go and dress up. Went the first time. Lilac City was my first. I'll never forget. And didn't dress up, business as usual. But then I did at Lake City. I thought, let's have some fun with this. But comics and pop culture have really, the line, I don't even think there's a line that's blurred there anymore. Like, they have crossed over so flawlessly. And one of them, the juggernaut that is Marvel Studios, and a man who would change the game forever. I know that there's so many superheroes that I'm a fan of. Hulk, Wolverine, the 90s X-Men animated series was so well done. It was so great. And we would not have those without Stan Lee. And Stan Lee passed away at the age of 95 Monday. And, it's crazy because there's been a lot of celebrity passings lately, There was, of course, in the music world, there was Chester of Linkin Park, and there was Chris Cornell, Audioslave, Soundgarden. And then we had David Bowie and Prince. Both of those were very tragic. And of course, there's been several wrestlers that have passed away recently, right? Bruno Sammartino was one. But in pop culture, in movies, there's a few here and there. And I keep thinking that the next one I'm going to read about is going to be someone that lived a lifestyle that their time was coming, like a Keith Richards. How does that man continue to live past so many? Leonard Nimoy was a surprise, but that was cancer, and that was very tragic too. But Stan Lee, though, no cancer, no disease, no substance abuse that I know of anyway. But 95 years old. I mean, at that age, once you hit 90, it's sort of like every day is a blessing. Not that it's not, whether you're 95 or 25. I'm just saying that you've lived beyond the expected, for me, I think, lifespan of the average person. And for Stan Lee, for a man like that, a man of that caliber, to give us 95 great years, and it wasn't like we watched him deteriorate like we've seen other icons and celebrities do. He was still doing Marvel cameos, and he was out there at cons, shaking hands, signing comic books, saying hello. In fact, today we are remembering Stan Lee, and Matt Brazee, local toy maker and comic book artist, wrestling enthusiast himself, will be on later to share a memory of himself with Stan Lee, and we're going to talk a little bit about Stan Lee. So that's the start of the show. It is a little bit of a dark cloud hanging over the Fan Cave studio here, because as much as I talk about football, as much as I talk about wrestling, I do love pop culture. I love comics. And he is responsible for a lot of the characters that I love. I love the Hulk, right? Like, if you could have told me when we got the chance to, like, make up a superhero, you know, it's like, oh, I'd want to be able to fly, or I'd want to be able to go invisible, or I'd want, like, super strength. Super strength is cool, but to have super strength because you're pissed off, that's a whole nother level of superhero. I mean, how many times have you gotten angry in an argument or a scenario, just life, right? And you just wish that you could Hulk out and just rip stuff to shreds. I mean, that's the ultimate superpower. He is the ultimate superhero in my mind, is the Hulk. And Wolverine's right up there. He's probably my second favorite, or tied for first. Wolverine, he's an angry guy too. I feel I relate a lot with the angry guys, but him and his rage and those metal claws, such a cool look. And then I got to give it up to Iron Man. More Tony Stark than Iron Man. And then, of course, Thor. But yeah, Marvel's my jam. I love Marvel, and Stan Lee will be deeply missed. I don't think it's really set in for people just yet. And, of course, he did film his Avengers 4 cameo, the untitled final installment of the Avengers franchise. And it's going to be tough. It is. I hope it's a beautiful cameo. The cameo, that I can't even take credit for it, but my God, it's such a genius idea. I wish I could. The cameo that we all deserve from Stan Lee was, if you go back to Avengers Age of Ultron, and I apologize, spoiler alert, like, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the Avengers movies, I don't know why you're listening. We make a lot of pop culture references here. But Avengers Age of Ultron was his best cameo, in my opinion, but it's like there was a huge missed opportunity for an even better cameo, if you can imagine that. So they have that scene where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer, right? And it's probably one of the best scenes that they have in any of their movies, I think, as far as like a comic relief, just sort of like side note thing. I love it. It is one of my favorite scenes in any of their movies. But somebody mentioned that his cameo, or even the post-credits scene for that movie, should have been Stan Lee as like a butler or like a janitor profession, coming in, and he's like dusting and cleaning, picks up the hammer, wipes underneath it, sets it back down, end scene. It would have been the most subtle, perfect cameo post-credits scene ever. It's the one that we all deserve, really, because yes, Stan Lee was worthy, and we're gonna miss him. In fact, I'm getting a little weepy here now. So let's move on. We will have more Stan Lee talked as we remember the great man behind Marvel Comics. Excelsior! Here are today's headlines. Headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, and you can hit up Ethan and have him customize your world. I mean, really, when you think about it, what do you, in life, what do you use? You wear shirts, jackets. It's getting colder out, right? Winter is coming. Winter's here, folks. And you can have, if you're a business owner or if you're a fan of something, if you have artwork that you'd like to be displayed, he can do shirts, coats, jackets, hats, even socks. Like, if it's apparel, if he doesn't have it on hand, he can get it and he can put your logo or artwork on it. But if you're a business and you're looking for maybe more knick-knack things or promotional type merchandise, then he can do flasks. I believe shot glasses too. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he can do stickers. We've got stickers here for the fan show in all 6 divisions, including the Infinity Gauntlet. Shout out Stan Lee. And it's amazing to watch the process, because I've gotten several tours of Dynamite Enterprises and where all the magic happens, and it's incredible to see this work come together. So I have shirts, I have hats with the Fan Show logo on it, I now have stickers, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. He just finished up his tablecloth for me, and it looks phenomenal. It really does, and I do not use that word lightly. So you need to hit up Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, or just visit dynamiteenterprises.com. Like, don't take my word for it. Like, go and check it out. But and the reality is that you should take my word for it, because I haven't steered you wrong yet. So the breaking news was the Stan Lee passing. So we're through that. We'll move on. And Steelers, winners of the Nobel Prize. Not my joke, but still just as funny. Le'Veon Bell, as of yesterday, does not sign his tag and will miss the 2018 season. Now, there are 2 very good sides to this story, mind you, and I'm just going to point this out. Maurice Jones-Drew did an interview, phoned it in on the Dan Patrick Show, and Dan was very passionate about the opposite. He feels like Le'Veon Bell is his own worst enemy as far as getting paid and finding a team, because there's a lot of uncertainty with a guy that's willing to do this, willing to go this far, to forfeit $8 million, which is what he's up to right now, and to miss an entire season of on-field play just for a bigger paycheck. Maurice Jones-Drew, though, said that, he took, the number was so high, I can't even quote it right now, but he said basically he was taking 60% of their snaps. And that's like, those are quarterback numbers. He's like, 60% of the plays were run plays to Le'Veon Bell last year. That's a lot of footwork. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body, which I completely understand. I completely sympathize with, or empathize with, I guess. And so Maurice Jones-Drew was saying, that this is a win-win for both sides, because once the season is over, he'll become an unrestricted free agent. They have James Conner, who is clearly, fit the bill, filled the void, and done so admirably. I'll get it right. It's Tongue Twister Wednesday. And the Steelers are going to be just fine. They still got Big Ben for how long? I don't know. They still have Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. So the quarterback is probably the biggest question mark at this point. James Conner has done a phenomenal job. And Le'Veon Bell is going to find a new home. Some team will pay him his asking price. Now, Dan brought up a good point. Well, what happens at the end of that contract, that last year, when he's looking to get paid more? There's a lot of what ifs, and, this happens kind of scenarios, and you can't play that game all day. And I don't typically disagree with Dan, and I'm not saying that I necessarily do. I'm just saying that I feel that Maurice Jones-Drew was a player. He understands the mindset and the mentality, and there are a lot of freak accidents in the NFL. And if you haven't secured your future, it's an uphill battle. And I think the Earl Thomas holdout and then injury shortly after really opened a lot of players' eyes. And so Le'Veon Bell is sticking to his guns in this, and you got to kind of respect him for that. I don't really think it's selfish. He knows what he feels his worth is. Now, how you go about the next contract, whatever team it is that picks him up, I think will be the big question mark. But you don't know when injury is going to strike, and you want to feel secure and good about your future, because next headline is there and gone again. Dez Bryant tears his Achilles. We talked about Dez Bryant on the last episode signing with New Orleans. He went there and he signed, I think, Tuesday, was practicing, and then was out Friday. I mean, the MRI was really a formality at that point. Tore his Achilles, will miss the remainder of the season. And it's such a bummer for him. It really is, because he was holding out for different reasons. He wanted to find the right team, the right fit, and New Orleans was going to be that fit for him. So that all meshes together. It's all that 6 degrees of separation. We're much closer than that. So in the world of the NFL, if you're a player, this is a big deal. Next one, from Mexico to L.A., the matchup between the Chiefs and Rams for Monday Night Football has been moved from Mexico to L.A. As it is a Rams home game, so it will be played in the Coliseum because of poor field conditions. That's right, it was that bad in Mexico, and I saw photos. God, that looked awful. So they will play in L.A. That game has been bumped, moved, and not flexed, I guess. That wouldn't be the correct term. But I wondered, though, why a game can be moved for this reason. A very good reason. I'm not arguing moving it. It should have been moved. I'm glad that it has been. But the air quality in California, certain parts, has been absolutely terrible. People are walking around wearing masks, but they're still having games in Santa Clara and L.A., and I can't for the life of me understand how that doesn't merit getting moved. So the NFL, they are a fickle mistress, are they not? They tend to... they make a move where you're just like, yeah, NFL, and then they make a move where you're like, what the hell, NFL? Like, I don't get it. 49ers lost on Monday night. They will have to wait until next season to be the all-time record holder for most wins on Monday Night Football. And I really thought this was going to be the game. The Giants, they're just such trash right now. And Eli... I cheered hard for him when they played the Patriots because you like the underdog, the Cinderella story. And so I cheered hard for him. But let's be real. He is not that good. He gets so lucky. I don't know, honestly, who's a luckier quarterback in the NFL, Eli or Russell. I'm going to probably have to say Eli because Russell Wilson is very talented. But, man, he's caught some lucky breaks too. But Eli, ugh. In the world of football, I don't know if there's anything worse as a fan than losing to Eli Manning. It sucks. It really does. So 49ers lose a heartbreaker. The only lead change that happened all night was, I take that back. The Giants scored, I think, a field goal to start off. But anyway, their last lead change was the final 27-24. 23. I take that back because 49ers needed a touchdown, not a field goal. And so 49ers move to 2-8. They are now the projected number 2 overall pick right behind Oakland. Oh, what a mess. What a mess this season has been. Just really. Your current division leaders, though, after 10 weeks of NFL football. In the AFC, we have the 6-2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. Still looking at that tie. Is it going to haunt them? Is it going to haunt somebody else? AFC South, the Houston Texans at 6-3, the 9-1 Chiefs in the AFC West, and upset alert, Titans take down the Patriots, which is a game that I picked. Crazy. How crazy is that? So the Patriots fall to 7-3. Dolphins stay alive. Man, that's crazy. This might be the first time in a long time that the Patriots not only don't get a first-round bye, but they may not host the first round of the playoffs. God, that would really change things, wouldn't it? In the NFC side, though, on the NFC side, in the NFC, it is a bit more of a clearer picture at this point. In the South, it is the Saints at 8-1. In the West, it is the Rams at 9-1, who rebounded close one, but they got the job done against Seattle. In the North, 6-3 Bears, and in the East, the 6-3 Redskins. And Philly had a chance to really make this division interesting, and I'm not saying that it won't be, but they lost to Dallas at home on Sunday Night Football, and that's a game. If you're Philly, if you're the reigning NFL Super Bowl champions, you got to win that game. You do. So I don't know how I feel about the East anymore. Two teams are not going to come out of the East as far as the playoffs go. Well, I take that back. It could be the North. It'd be probably the North and the South. I'm not sure. Another breaking news. Bengals fired their defensive coordinator after that just bludgeoning by the Saints. That was fun to watch. And let's see. So for Seattle, the Saints have signed... never mind. Not for the Saints, not for Seattle. The Saints, in lieu of the Dez Bryant injury, have signed wide receiver Brandon Marshall, who was previously with the Saints. This dude is a journeyman in every sense of the word. I hope this is his final stop and that he makes the most of it, because that was he's such a talent. He really is. Chubb had himself a hell of a day. Mayfield, McCoy had himself a hell of a day, and that hurts because I was just hovering over adding McCoy, and then I decided I didn't like the matchup, that I liked the matchup with Carlos Hyde being with the Jaguars now against the Colts better, and that didn't work out. So those are your headlines, and I went 10-4 for NFL Pick'em. I'm at 59.999% of my picks for this season. That's pretty good. 60%, man. That's the majority. That's a good majority to have too. So now we're going to reflect and remember the life of Stan Lee as Matt Brazee and I are going to talk about the man who created the Marvel Universe, and then, of course, as we watched it come to life on the big screen, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But first, speaking of creating things, if you'd like to create yourself a little extra cash, I guess you could say, you got to go and put your money where your mouth is and bet not only confidently, but safely, and that's through MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is the leading leader of online betting. I would only recommend a service to my listeners that's been good to me, and they definitely have. And of course, I don't gamble a lot. Kevin Goatee does. He uses MyBookie. He's used my promo code a few times. Promo code is F.A.N. That's F-A-N for football and nonsense. And that's why I'm urging you to make your way to MyBookie. You win, they pay. Simple as that. They have in-game, live betting, over-unders, and even on fantasy points scored. And they are the most rewarding player perks in the business. It's according to them, but I'm going to take their word for it because they are. I see it all over the place. MyBookie. MyBookie is slammed with new bettors and wants to give you and everyone the best service possible. If you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, then using my promo code F-A-N, they will match your initial deposit up to $1,000. So what are you waiting for? If you can gamble, if you feel confident about your picks, and if you need to ask me my advice on my picks, I'm here for you. I went 11-3 and 11-2, 3 weeks in a row, and now 10-4 this last week. So I'm on a pretty good streak. So if you want my opinion, I'll give it to you, and you can go and use my promo code, bet some money, win some money, and have a very Merry Christmas, which is just around the corner. I know it's November, but you can't deny it because the Christmas decorations are freaking everywhere. So go visit MyBookie. That is MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. And here we are with Matt Brazee. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me as we remember the great Stan Lee is a toy maker and a comic and wrestling enthusiast. So we got plenty to talk about. It is Matt Brazee from here in the Pacific Northwest. Matt, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's bittersweet. It's a Wednesday. I do love Wednesdays. It is a show day, but there's certain people that it's like, when they pass that you're gonna feel it for a bit. And I knew that there was Harrison Ford is one just because of the iconic characters he's played in the world. Betty White and just how long she's been with us and how much people love and adore her. And I knew that Stan Lee was definitely another one. And 95 is one hell of a run, but my God, I mean, it's just, you get so used to seeing him in his cameos, and he's out there at the Comic-Cons, and now he's gone, and it's like it hasn't quite set in. Do you know where you were and the emotion when you got the news that Stan Lee had passed?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, this one, we knew it was coming for a while because he was 95, and he has had some health scares in recent years. So I mean, it still hit me pretty hard. But I mean, I was actually thinking about it earlier, and like another big one for me was Adam West, and that was a little bit less expected. So I mean, I took that one a little bit harder, but yeah, definitely when I read the news the other day, it kind of shook me a bit about Stan.
Yeah, and one thing that's funny about this world is, I remember growing up, my parents would watch the news at 6 o'clock every night, and that's how we got our notifications, so to speak, our news like that, which celebrity had passed. And so there's a lot of things that have happened throughout history that we can remember very well where we were, because it was, one of like three spots. It was either at school when they had the news playing on the TV, like in the background of the cafeteria. It was at home as we were getting ready to leave for school on the morning news, or it was at home when we got home from school, and it was the evening news. But now it's like, you could be out shopping for groceries and scrolling through your phone and see, oh my God, this happened. And so it's crazy the where we get our information from and how now. But Stan Lee has passed 95. I did read that he recorded his or filmed his last cameo for the Avengers 4, which I hope is a great one. I would like to believe that it would be. But, your thoughts as a toy maker, obviously a comic enthusiast, what kind of impact do you see this having on the world? Not just moving forward, but just kind of as a right now feeling.
Well, I mean, it definitely, it was a big deal yesterday, or what was it, Monday? Yeah, on Monday. So, I mean, that's pretty much my whole Facebook feed was just remembrances, and I think it's gonna take people a little bit, but I think that he left a strong foundation, obviously, of what Marvel Comics was built on. So I think his legacy will continue to go on for quite some time.
Do you see there sort of being, because I remember that there's been several times where the head of a company, the creator, the founder has passed, and it's been their family that has taken over. I don't know how the line of succession goes for Marvel and Stan Lee. Do you believe that it will be in good hands even without him there to sort of oversee everything?
Well, at this point, I think that his I can't remember what his exact title was, but I think it was more of an honorary title nowadays.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that the editorial staff they have in place now won't really change at all, but I'm sure that they're going to probably continue to credit him in all the books going forward, like they have for the past 50, 60 years. Yeah. So I don't think too much will change in that regard, but I think they'll still find ways to keep him remembered in the company.
And what was a memory that you have of Stan Lee? Did you ever get to meet him?
I did, yeah. Because, I was born in 1984, so I was a 90s kid for sure. And I was right at that perfect age in 91 when they relaunched the X-Men, and that was the big thing. So that hooked me into Marvel for life. I've always been a big Marvel fan, and I grew up reading X-Men and Daredevil and Spider-Man and Avengers. But I believe it was 2010, Stan came to the Emerald City Comic-Con in Seattle. And my oldest son, back then, I think he would have been 7 or 8 back then. So he was right at that same age. And we had never been to Emerald City before. So I said, well, you know what? This is going to be one of those opportunities that we're not going to get again anytime soon. So he and I went over there, and I had gotten some pretty early, I think it was like X-Men number 10 and 12 comics, and we got those signed by Stan. And I remember going up to the table and just having him sign it and telling him how much he had meant to me as a kid. And he was signing the books, and he looked at Hunter, and I apologize because I do a horrible impression, but he said, "Are these your comic books?" and Hunter was, he was 8, so he was kind of shy, and he just kind of shook his head no and smiled. And I said, well, they will be someday. And he looked up and gave me a little wink and said, "Good job, Dad." So that was kind of a validation for me that I was doing the right thing and bringing my son up right the way that I was. So.
Yeah, it's always great to have fond memories of people, especially of that caliber, just because it seems like whenever there's a death, there's a lot of not so nice things that can come out of the woodwork. And thankfully, luckily, I haven't seen any of that. I haven't heard that, he was some kind of raging alcoholic or, things like this. He always took the time to be with the fans and to, do what he felt needed to be done as far as the Marvel universe. But yes, X-Men, I mean, you nailed it right there for me. X-Men, that the animated series, that was my jam. I mean, I was obsessed with it, and I would have loved to see X-Men come to life the way that the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe did. I mean, I'm not saying that my X-Men experience was ruined because Hugh Jackman wasn't running around in yellow spandex. It's just the fact that, it's like there's something about the costumes, even if they're altered, still being true to how you remember them. I guess it's nostalgia maybe, but the X-Men series and Bryan Singer, I felt like he did a terrific job for the ones that he actually had a hand in, and X-Men has been a very successful franchise on its own. But Stan Lee and Marvel Studios and what they have done with that cinematic universe and the Avengers, I don't know if anything will ever be able to top what they, or even mimic what they've accomplished. I know that DC tried, but I don't know if it's not having their own Stan Lee or what, but man, it's apples to oranges. It really is.
Yeah. It'll be interesting now that Marvel or Disney is acquiring Fox to see how and when they start to integrate those characters back in, and if they do decide to do something. Well, I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't do something with the X-Men if they're paying for those properties. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it and how it turns out. But yeah, it'll be kind of bittersweet to not have Stan in those movies doing cameos, and unless they pull a Grand Moff Tarkin and digitally add him in or something.
Which, I would appreciate their effort, because obviously they want to sort of keep that trend going and they're honoring him. But then some people might feel that it's best to just sort of leave it be. I know that there's a lot of controversy around, Princess Leia making appearances in Star Wars movies, given that she has passed. But X-Men, for me, is one of those franchises that, as much as, you'd love to see what Disney and Marvel Studios could do with those rights, it's like, could you really see anyone else playing those characters? Because like I said, very successful being outside of that particular club and bubble. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is as good as Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and Iron Man. And it's funny, I'm going to ask you as a comic book fan yourself, Chris Evans, Captain America or the Human Torch?
Oh, I mean, at this point, you got to go with Captain America. I think those Fantastic Four movies are forgettable at best, but I mean, yeah, he's definitely Captain America in my mind.
It's so crazy to think about, because I mean, I for one like the Fantastic Four movies. I thought it was a good effort. Obviously, that was well before the time of the Marvel Studios and Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it was a good effort, and I thought Chris Evans played the part very well. But yeah, it's crazy to think that he was that and that he fit it well, but now there's nobody else that you could see playing Captain America and throwing the shield around. So it's interesting to see how that all works out. I wonder if they'll try anything else with the Fantastic Four, but at a certain point, I feel like you give it twice, and then if it doesn't work, you gotta cut your losses. But the Hulk has been the exception. They've done that a few times, and I think maybe standalones is just going to be that one thing that the character the Hulk doesn't do. But he's been great in everything else with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, I guess they decided that this is working out. Just keep doing what they're doing, and don't try to reinvent it at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny. People were talking about recasting and how you can't change this character, you can't change that character, and then people said, well, they changed this one and they changed this one. I'm like, okay, you're talking about Don Cheadle becoming the War Machine, and it's like this was in Marvel Studios' infancy. Like it's a much bigger deal now. Like people are gonna know if you start swapping characters. So for Dave Bautista to get upset about the James Gunn thing, it's a slightly bigger deal than it was if Don Cheadle or whoever said that they're gonna not reprise their or they're not going to come back unless it's for more money. So we'll see how that one all plays out. But you're also a big wrestling fan. I do love your daily chunks and all the throwbacks that you do. We got Survivor Series, one of the big four, and it was announced last night that Becky Lynch, who was supposed to face Ronda Rousey, has sustained a concussion and a broken nose, pretty much a broken face, and cannot compete this Sunday. And so Charlotte Flair will replace her. Accidents happen, and these things, you wish they didn't have to change stuff on the fly that had such a perfect build. But what's your feelings overall going into Survivor Series?
Yeah, I mean, that was a real bummer about Becky, because she definitely had one of those. I mean, they were really pushing her hard as a heel, but she had one of those kind of Steve Austin, Daniel Bryan grassroots campaigns behind her, just giving her that big push, even though the company was like, no, she's a heel.
No, she's the anti-hero right now, and that's classic Steve.
It's a bummer that she has this setback now, but and I know there was another big change to the card last night. I don't know when this comes out. Well, I guess it won't be spoilers at this point. It was live, but you got Daniel Bryan and Bork Lesnar. So we'll see how that works now that Bryan is kind of taking a bit of a heel turn as well, how they're going to play that one out.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the last minute change, and SmackDown has done this 2 years in a row now, where they've changed their title holder for that champion versus champion as far as their main champion goes. Mm-hmm. And of course the Jinder one, God, that needed to happen. That was obvious. I right. Don't like that they waited as long to do it, but AJ Styles is definitely going to be the better in-ring worker with a guy like Brock, and it turned out to be actually a very decent match. But I don't understand the last-minute change this time. I mean, it seems like a lot of people are saying, well, I guess, so much for punishing Daniel for, holding out a crown jewel. But at the same time, it's like, fans were expecting to see something like last night at Mania against like The Miz or something. So I don't know what the hell they're doing, but creative's getting crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if they felt like they had to mix it up so that it was a different match than last year or what, but it's going to be strange to see how they tell this story with. You got Brock as like the super bully heel, and then you've got Daniel, who's still kind of an underdog, but now he's cheating to win. So how that works out is going to be a strange one to see unfold.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do, and I know that so many people are just like, so if he doesn't drop the title to Braun, like then who really can beat him? And I'm like, okay, you guys seem to forget that this is WWE where anything can happen. They've had matches between Big Show and Rey Mysterio. Trust me, like they'll convince you when it happens that it could happen. But I mean, if they're really that nervous about it, all they need to do is just approach Lesnar like they did with Becky and Ronda, because I made a tweet last night. I said, if I didn't know either of them, if I didn't know that Ronda had the decorated MMA background and I was watching this week and somebody asked me, hey, which one do you think has a history in MMA? I would have pointed to Becky and said, her. She's the one that you don't want to mess with. So sure. I think that if they want to, really sell whoever knocks Brock off the top of the mountain again, approach it that way. That's what I would do.
Yeah, who knows? Shane McMahon, Universal Champ.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me after the kind of shenanigans they've been pulling.
Yeah, they've been pulling a lot lately. Well, Matt, I will let you get back to it. He is Matt Brazee, and he is a amazing artist and a toy maker, and you can see a bulk of his work on Instagram, Brazee. That's Brazee 84. He does daily chunks, which are these cute toys that he does. There's one of Stan Lee, and then some wrestlers, some superheroes. So go and give him a follow and check it out. Matt, thank you so much for being on, talking comics, wrestling, and of course remembering the late great Stan Lee.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. You take care.
All right, you too.
Bye. All right. Thank you again, Matt Brazee. Seriously, such a great follow on Instagram. His artwork is great. The chunks that he does, these toys, they're kind of like puzzle pieces. Anyway, go and check him out because he does great work. And a lot of the people I have on the show, all of them do great work. So just take my word for it at this point. I mean, you're listening, obviously, because, well, I don't know why you're listening. You can tell me, though, on social media. Follow me on Twitter, @FanShowOfficial, and then all the different Fan Show divisions. And you can give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, and follow along Snapchat and Instagram. The Fan Show is the username for both. Not on Snapchat nearly enough to justify really a follow there. But Instagram, though, I try to do at least a post a day, right? Post a day keeps the haters away. I don't know if that's a real saying, but it sounded right. And tomorrow we will have a new episode of our College Gridiron Showcase special as we continue the countdown to the CGS event in Fort Worth, Texas. Co-creator, one of the heads, Craig Red, joins me, and we talk even more behind-the-scenes stuff about what goes into a 5-day combine-like event for college seniors and free agents. And free agents, if you're listening, you need to hit up him or Jose Jefferson because you guys need to get more exposure. If you want to make that leap, if you want to get on that AAF team, that NFL team, that CFL team, you got to go to this event. You have no reason not to. And I've been preaching it, and I will practice what I preach. I will be down there in Fort Worth, Texas, and you got to do it. Seriously, I can't emphasize that enough. So if you're a free agent looking for a home, go to Fort Worth. Hit up Jose and just say, hey, Fan Show said I should hit you up about doing this thing, and then do it. And yeah, we got Survivor Series this Sunday. I guess I kind of left that out of the headlines. Becky Lynch had to withdraw from her match due to injuries sustained from Nia Jax at the hand, literally, of Nia Jax. She punched her in the face. Broke her nose, gave her a concussion. I don't think that was an accident. I mean, I don't think it was on purpose either, but it's one thing to botch like a back body drop or something like that, but a punch, it's a little harder to botch. So anyway, it will be Charlotte that replaces her. We now have Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan. Champion versus champion. And then we've got the tag teams versus the tag teams. That's crazy. Shinsuke Nakamura, U.S. champion, against Seth Rollins, the Intercontinental champion. That'll be good. So Survivors, the card's decent. There's a few head scratchers there, but I think overall it'll be pretty good. So tune into that this Sunday. I believe it's probably got the early start, 4 o'clock. So if you're not into the Sunday Night Football matchup, then this would be the best bet for you. Speaking of which, we have some NFL games coming up, and we'll just go down these real quick. This is the Fan Show lightning round of NFL Pick'em. All right, Thursday night, Packers-Seahawks. Give me the Packers. Then Cowboys-Falcons. I like the Falcons. Bengals-Ravens. Give me the Ravens. Panthers-Lions. I like the Panthers. Titans-Colts. Let's go with the Titans. Buccaneers-Giants. I like the Bucks. Texans-Redskins. Ooh, this is probably going to be the game of the weekend. Texans-Redskins. At home. Texans coming off of a bye week. I'm going to go Texans. Texans on the road against the Redskins, and the Eagles will breathe a giant sigh of relief as far as the standings in the NFC East go. Steelers, Jaguars. We're going Steelers, Raiders, Cardinals. I like the Cardinals. God, that's a tough matchup, too, and not for the reasons you'd think. 1-8 versus 2-7. Ugh. Broncos, Chargers. Give me the Chargers. Eagles, Saints. Oh, the Saints keep it rolling. Vikings, Bears. This one is probably the second most important game all weekend. Well, it might be the most important game all weekend. This one got flexed in the primetime Sunday Night Football. Battle in the midway. 5-3-1 against 6-3. How much is this tie going to haunt the Vikings? But I like the Bears. Yeah, give me the Bears. Bears look like a solid team right now. So the Bears, I think, if the Vikings win, though, that's going to create one hell of a cluster up there. And then, of course, Monday Night Football, the battle of bests, the Chiefs and the Rams. I like the Rams. So there you have it. Teams on a bye week: Bills, Browns, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots, and my 49ers. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, and enjoy some NFL football. I hope you do as well. Thank you again for listening, Fan Nation. Remember, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his one player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.